How's it going, everybody? Welcome in to another episode of Mavs Step Back Podcast. I'm your host, Dalton Trigg. I am joined, as always, by my co-host, Drew Johnson. Man, DJ, it has been a minute since we have come on here and talked about the Mavs. I was kind of joking with you before we jumped on here. It's been so long that I feel like a casual at this point. Like it's been had a lot going on. We with the holidays coming up, that was one hurdle. And then, I ended up getting pretty sick during that time. Couple weeks, like a flu COVID mix. Like it was pretty rough. Anyway, feeling a lot better now. You and, your wife, you've been going through some changes. Y'all just welcomed your second daughter into the world. So congrats to y'all. A lot of stuff going on. The Mavs, they are still not good. Uh, they weren't good when we were doing our last pod. They're still not good. But Cooper Flagg has been, the light at the end of the tunnel, so to speak. He's been everything we would have hoped he would have been this rookie season and more. And he's going to be, look, I get it. Things aren't where we want them to be right now, but he is going to be very easy to build around, in my opinion. Very complete player already. If he can just get that, the only thing missing for Cooper Flagg is the 3-point shot. When he gets that down pat, sky is the absolute limit. Like it's scary. He's already one of the best players in the NBA, in my opinion. So that has been going. That's been one of the major bright spots. That's been going well for the Mavs this year. Other than that, though, it just hasn't lived up to the expectations beforehand, or at least by Nico Harrison's expectations. Putting together this team, because shocker, injuries have become a major factor in this season, just like they did last year. Even before the Luka trade last year, it was a problem. It's a problem again this year. Derek Lively, he's out for the season after having surgery on his foot. Probably a lingering thing from last year when they mismanaged his, whether he was supposed to be playing or not, ended up playing through an injury he probably shouldn't have been playing through. And I would not doubt that that's, the surgery he just had was from complications from all that stuff. So you have that going on. You have Kyrie, who's still out recovering from ACL surgery. I fully thought he'd be back, by Christmas or New Year's this year, if the Mavs had a competitive record, if it was clear that they have a chance to make the playoffs and they wouldn't be tanking. Unfortunately, that hasn't been the case. So obviously there is no rush to bring Kyrie back now. And then Anthony Davis, who trade rumors have been swirling for weeks now. And then, of course, 3 weeks before the trade deadline, he ends up injuring his hand. There was some questions about whether he'd have surgery, because of ligament damage in his hand. And supposedly he's not having surgeries, but he's still going to be out. I think the report was around 6 weeks. So
many conflicting reports about that, though, man.
Right,
You want to talk about some drama? Oh my gosh!
Right. Yeah, Shams, he put out something about that AD was definitely going to have surgery. And then AD got on Twitter. I guess Rich Paul told AD, like, hey, you need to clap back at this or something. So he got on Twitter. Yeah, this is not true. So I don't know. We don't know what's going on there. We don't know if, it's just a trade negotiating tactic or what the case may be. But I think it doesn't eliminate the possibility of Anthony Davis getting traded, but it does definitely hurt it, because teams like we'll say the main two, we got the Atlanta Hawks and we got the Toronto Raptors. That's the two main teams that have been linked to Anthony Davis. The Atlanta Hawks, they're in that 10th spot in the East. They're trying to stay in the play-in range, maybe move up, to the top of the play-in range, or maybe even the 6th seed before the end of the season. Then you have the Toronto Raptors, who are at number 4, and they may be a piece away from being a true contender in the East. So the fact that AD is going to be out for like 6 weeks now is pretty rough, and you have to wonder if it affects what those teams would be willing to trade for AD. But anyway, we'll get into the AD trade stuff here in just a second. I've rambled for a little bit because it's been a while and there's a lot on my mind, but let's back it up. Let's take a step back and let's talk about Cooper Flagg a little bit more. I've already said my piece, but how have you, processed what you've seen with Cooper Flagg over these first several months of his rookie season?
So the first, I would say 2 to 3 weeks, maybe even month of the season, we kind of went through a rookie rough patch with him. And that was to be expected. Nobody comes into this league just, busting ass.
Playing point guard too. I mean,
Yeah, playing point guard, but completely out of position. I don't know what we were thinking. There's a lot of actual conspiracy theories associated with that, but we're not going to get into that because quite frankly, we're not good enough for me to speculate on conspiracy theories. Nobody cares. So, but after that month and after he was moved to his more, natural position on the wing, he has been spectacular. He showcases, pretty much a well-rounded game. What's really stood out to me is the improvement of his handling of the basketball. And that can be attributed, and there's actual footage that backs up this statement, that can be attributed to the work that he's been getting in with Kyrie Irving. We've seen film of them working together on specific moves that we have seen him use in game. And it goes beyond the moves. It's more so, when to do what, reading the defense and when to utilize what you know. And he's like a machine. He's a sponge. He's able to not only take in what you teach him, but implement it almost immediately. And guys, I don't think you understand how rare that actually is. There aren't very many people on the planet that can take in and implement what you teach them within, a day or two. That just doesn't happen. So he's very special in that regard, that he can, take what is taught to him and utilize it immediately. And the fact that he is being taught by who is likely the best ball handler of all time, nobody better could teach him how to be a guard.
oh, yeah.
And so I think Kyrie Irving has been incredibly key to his development. And
And look,
so,
Jason Kidd, as much criticism as he gets at times, and sometimes it's warranted, and sometimes it's a little bit over the top.
yeah,
But he knows a little bit about being a point guard,
he
a
does.
star point guard in the league too. So I mean, I'm sure getting that, just soaking it up as a sponge, like a sponge. 19-year-old sponge, first year in the NBA, and you have guys like Jason Kidd and Kyrie Irving around you, helping you develop that part of your game. That's probably that and the 3-point shooting. That's the two main elements there. Everything else is already there. You may say he could add a little bit more muscle, but he's already, physically fine. Like he can
Yeah,
muscle through people. And he will he will add more muscle. But the main two things are continue to develop the ball handling skills and to refine that 3-point shot. And you have two guys who can definitely help him do that.
so you mentioned earlier taking a step back. I want to take a jump back, a whole leap back in time, back when Jason Kidd was coaching with Milwaukee, back when a young Giannis Antetokounmpo was there. And they put Antetokounmpo in some pretty similar situations. So maybe the whole Cooper Flagg at point guard thing wasn't meant to be a success now scenario as much as it is a development scenario. And
That's
I
what it
wish
was.
it do what?
That's exactly what it was. And I
I
mean,
think
I
so.
think you're seeing the benefits of it now, but it was very frustrating, in those initial games, those first few games.
But now he's able to utilize, I mean, he's not truly a point guard, but they have him bringing the ball up the floor a lot. And they have him initiating the offense a lot. And dare I say, I think he's progressing at a rate much quicker than what Giannis did. I think that Cooper Flagg has a lot of Giannis characteristics, but is incredibly more refined already. He is already more refined than Giannis. Number
You
one,
know, you
go ahead.
know. Well, I was just gonna say, and I agree with you. He is way more refined than him because I mean, Giannis he morphed into a like a Godzilla type thing, like over the years because he was so skinny,
Mhm.
and he just ballooned up into this in a good way, and not in a bad way, but like muscle wise, he's just unbelievable. He truly became the Greek freak. But I agree with you on that. One thing I wanted to point out specifically with Flag that I'm very impressed by is that he has 5 games, 5 20+ point games so far this year where he has 0 turnovers. And in those games, so I'm looking down this list here. So like there was a 2 point overtime win against Detroit in mid December. That was a great win over a very very great. The Pistons have been killing it in the East this year.
They're good, yeah.
Um, he had 23 points, 10 rebounds, 4 assists, 3 blocks, a steal, uh, 8 of 20 from the field, and no turnovers against that team. Like that's awesome to me. Another one was against Brooklyn, which it's Brooklyn. Houston, another very good team.
Mhm.
Well, they haven't been good lately, but they started out better at the time when this win happened. But he had 19 points, 5 rebounds, 3 assists, 2 steals, 2 blocks, and again, 0 turnovers. He did against Toronto, Sacramento, and Portland as well. 0 turnovers and scoring 20 or more points. I mean, that's just that's good stuff from a rookie that's as young as he is, the youngest rookie since LeBron James entered the league. He's the first rookie to score 40+ points in a game. There's several. You know how people pick those different stat lines and they look them up in the database, and sometimes it can be cherry picking, sometimes it can be legitimately impressive. Cooper Flagg has a lot of very impressive ones so far this year that he's been the first to do. And he's there's 2 players in the league. Now I don't know if this has changed since he tweaked his ankle in that last game he played against the Washington Wizards. Um, I don't know if this has changed, but before that game, there are 2 players that have led their team in points, rebounds, assists, and steals this season, and it was Nikola Jokic, 3-time MVP, and Cooper Flagg. That's that is that is some good company there, DJ.
Absolutely. And he and just it's really hard to gauge where we're going to wind up as far as max potential is concerned, because he is already so well rounded as a player. What happens whenever he gets that 3-point shot, consistent, not if, when. And I think it's going to happen just simply based on mechanics that I'm seeing. He's not far off. It isn't like he's Giannis and has no idea to shoot a basketball. Okay. This guy actually, has a legitimate touch. And I think that, he's maybe a year or 2 away from getting that thing right. And when he does, watch out, because that's whenever you're going to see him averaging 30 a game. I firmly believe it. And I saw something on Sports Center the other day, and it pissed off a lot of people involved. But there was something that he did statistically that only Michael Jordan had ever done. I don't remember what it was, but my point is, if you're in the same room with his airness on anything, you're doing
Always a
something
good
right.
thing.
Yeah, always a good thing.
Yeah.
So,
And another thing, and I don't think we've gotten the returns. I don't think we've seen the return. Like obviously, he's the leader for Rookie of the Year. Con Knuppel is very close behind him. His Duke teammate, because he's been killing it in Charlotte.
he's great.
But from an all around perspective, and it's no disrespect to Con, but you know, Con doesn't have the defensive capabilities that Coop has.
No.
And now he's killing it offensive. Like his shooting numbers as a rookie is, those are unbelievable. But I think it's a foregone conclusion unless Coop misses a bunch of games that knocks him out of it. I think he's going to end up winning Rookie of the Year, and he's 2 for 2 so far with Rookie of the Month awards in the West. Con Knuppel has gotten those in the East, and I say has Con gotten those two in the East, or did Edgecombe get VJ Edgecombe get one? Let me see here. Let's see. NBA.
I think Khan has them both, but I could be wrong. Edgecombe's been good though. Edgecombe's been very good.
Right. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. They both have. Yeah, Edgecombe did not get. Edgecombe started out the season pretty hot, but then toward the end of that first full month, I think he kind of dropped off a little bit. But
to be fair to Edgecombe, his team is actually playing pretty well.
Yeah.
The Sixers, they look legit. If everyone stays healthy, they could be a problem this year, which good for them. Good for, I hate saying this. It kind of tastes like bile in my mouth, but good for Joel Embiid, good
George.
for Paul George. Yeah. Good for both of those guys.
It's looking kind of dark there for a little bit.
It was.
All the knee injuries they were dealing with, but they look, you got Tyrese Maxey, who is just an absolute dog.
He's very good. They have the most explosive backcourt in the NBA right now, I think.
Tyrese Maxey, the Dallas native that should have been a Maverick, but we ended up with Josh Green instead. So no point in crying over spilled milk. But that one will always hurt a little bit.
It should hurt, and I'm going to cry about it. So,
but
it's terrible.
Well, I think, like I said, Coop, he's going to probably run away with the Rookie of the Year award just because of his all-around play. What I was getting to with that before I went down a rabbit hole is, he's making some noise in the NBA All-Star voting stuff too, which, I get it. It's a fan vote, but it just kind of tells you where he's at his first year, and he's already in top 20 in the West when it comes to All-Star voting. And this last round of voting counted like 3 times worth the vote. So, we'll see when those next returns come out, where he ends up in that range. But man, first year, and he's already in the top 20 in the West when it comes to the All-Star voting. That's going to be pretty interesting. We'll see if the coaches end up. He's not going to be a starter, obviously, but we'll see if the coaches end up putting him in there as a reserve. And then obviously you have some situations where players might be hurt and they can't play in the All-Star game, so then you have injury reserves and all that. So we'll see if he can kind of get his way into that All-Star game and start a LeBron James type run when it comes.
I think he's an All-Star. I think he should be an All-Star personally.
I agree, especially with the amount of injuries this team has endured to start this year, and him being thrown into the fire. Which I get it. I mean, that comes with the territory of being a number 1 overall pick, probably the most hyped number 1 overall pick since probably Zion Williamson, and then being the youngest pick since LeBron. But I mean, he's had a lot thrown at him.
I wouldn't say he's more hyped than Wembanyama was.
Wemby was hyped a lot. You're right.
Incredibly hyped, and rightfully so.
Yeah, very true. Yeah, I let Wemby slip my mind there, but you're 100% correct. Nothing will ever beat the hype of LeBron, but Wemby and Zion are up there with each other. Mm-hmm. But we'll see how it goes. It's been great rookie year for him. The Mavs are struggling, but all things considered, I think he's done very well. And the Mavs, they're 16-26 right now. On the road is where they've had most of their trouble. They're actually a game over 500 at home at 12-11, thanks to their most recent win, which was last night against the Utah Jazz, a team they had previously lost to twice in very closely contested games. One of those earlier losses to the Jazz was one of the games I was telling you about where, Coop became the first or the youngest NBA player to score 40-plus points. He had 42 in a 2-point overtime loss to the Jazz earlier this season. Well, last night, DJ, it's one of those games where you just when you saw the starting lineup, it's like, do I really want to watch this? Yeah, because it was, yeah, your starters were Jaden Hardy, Brandon Williams, Najee Marshall, Caleb Martin, and Dwight Powell. And then you had Musa Cisse, which is, I love Musa Cisse.
Yeah, he's great.
I think they need to make a roster spot for him ASAP. He's part of the reason why I'm perfectly okay with with them trading Gafford if the right deal comes along, because I think he will fill in very nicely for what Gafford does. But on the bench, you had Cisse, Klay Thompson, Ryan Nembhard. Miles Kelly got brought up from the Legends. He's one of our two-way guys. And then Jeremiah Robinson Earl, who was just signed to a 10-day contract. It was a hardship exception we got from the league because everybody's injured. Literally right off the bench or right off the street, we signed him. And he comes in and has 12 points in 22 minutes on 5 of 8 shooting, hit 2 of his 3 threes, a couple steals, 7 rebounds. So, he contributed in a big way. I'm going down the list here, but, Klay Thompson, 26 points off the bench. He passed Dame Lillard for 4th on the NBA's all-time three-pointers made list. I think he's somewhere around 160 or 170 threes away from Ray Allen. So it's probably going to be another year or two if he's going to catch him, but I think he'll do it. And then you had Najee Marshall doing his thing. He had 22 points, 9 of 15 shooting. The floater is lethal. 6 rebounds, 4 assists. I mean, just distributed scoring or well-distributed scoring across the board in this one. I'm just going to go down the list. Caleb Martin, 14 points. Najee Marshall, 22. Brandon Williams, 18. Jaden Hardy, 19. You like to see that before the trade deadline. And then, like I said, Jeremiah Robinson Earl, 12. Musa Cisse had 10 points, 13 rebounds, and 3 blocks in 23 minutes and was a plus 18 off the bench. That is awesome. Go Musa Cisse. Big fan.
Yeah, man. I mean, I think he would plug in. You could plug him into Gafford's role very easily.
Wait. I'll let you carry on with the Cisse praise here, but I got to get your answer to this. Don't cheat. Don't look at the box score. Guess who? It's so easy, but guess who led the Mavs in assists, DJ?
Ryan Nembhard.
Ryan Nembhard. The guy that led the entire NCAA in assists last year. Of course, he's leading the Mavs in assists when he plays. So 10 assists.
Shocker. But no, I think Cisse not only brings you a lot of defensive versatility, because not only is he good at defending the basket, he's pretty good at defending the pick and roll. He can switch out. He's got good feet, moves really well. I think that's a guy you invest in. And offensively, he's raw, but he's a good lob threat, and that's about all you really need from him, honestly. Pretty good rebounder. As long as he stays healthy, I think that he is an excellent piece. And he's only going to get better. He's only going to get stronger. So I think if in a scenario we do trade Gafford, I don't think it'll hurt us that much. I think Cisse will fill that gap really well. I really do.
Yeah. Yeah, he is. He's got a lot of chaotic energy, but it's not like uncontrolled chaotic energy. It's good chaotic energy.
Great motor.
Yeah. Yeah. That's what you want with a guy coming off the bench at that position. I mean, it's great to see. And he's only 23 years old, still has a lot of room to grow. And I'm very happy that the Mavs used a 2-way contract on him and Ryan Nembhard. Both of those guys need to be on regular contracts in the near future. There's nothing pushing right now because they are on those 2-ways, but at some point, you're going to want to convert them to a standard contract, just like they did with Brandon Williams last year, who may or may not. I mean, we don't even know if he'll be on the team past the trade deadline this year, but I just think that's the next progression for this roster as far as building around Coop goes. You secure those guys now because they got something. Lock them in at a decent price on a standard contract now, and then you go into making your other moves either at this trade deadline or during the offseason. But so anyway, that starting lineup, I was thinking, man, this is going to be a rough one. And it ended up being the best offensive night for the Mavs this season. 144 to 122, the Mavs defeat the Utah Jazz. And look, I mean, the Utah Jazz, they didn't have Lauri Markkanen, but I mean, they had Keontae George starting, who has killed the Mavs in his previous 2 games against them. You got Cody Williams, you got Kyle Filipowski, Ace Bailey, off the bench. Bryce Sensabaugh was outstanding for them in that game last night. 27 points off the bench in 28 minutes for him. Walter Clayton Jr., Taylor Hendricks. So I mean, they had guys. It's just they didn't have Yusuf Nurkic, and they didn't have Lauri Markkanen. I guess they didn't have Kevin Love either. But still, that lineup that the Mavs put out there, you would have thought this was going to be a blowout going against Dallas. But in hindsight, DJ, I didn't realize it was Seats for Soldiers night. If I had known it was Seats for Soldiers night, I would have changed my tune immediately, because over the years, Seat for Soldiers night has been pretty much a guaranteed W. They're 17-2 all time on Seats for Soldiers night. It's one of those times. It doesn't matter who they're playing. Like they apparently, or who, doesn't matter who they're playing or who is on the court playing for them. If it's that night, they just seem to have the magic. So that was good to see. Okay, so we got into that. We get the Mavs situation in the standings here. Again, they're 16-26. They're currently in that 12th spot in the West. They would be very close to 13th had they lost to the Jazz, but they did not. If the season ended today, they'd have the 8th best odds of getting the number 1 pick in the draft. But there are a couple teams ahead of them winning a few games away from potentially getting up to the 6th or 5th spot, odds in the draft. So we'll see how that plays out. But, a lot of how that plays out is going to be determined by what happens at this trade deadline, which will bring me back to the point that we started talking about earlier. What's going to happen with Anthony Davis here? Is he going to get traded? Or is, this latest hand injury going to hinder that? And is it, our team's going to be scared and back off of it? So again,
I'd be scared.
I agree. I would be too. But, there's been so much smoke, and the main 2 again have been Atlanta and Toronto. And with Atlanta, we think, just kind of reading the tea leaves and, knowing that the Mavs want mostly expiring contracts and stuff like that. With Atlanta, we think the package would probably be something like Anthony Davis for Kristaps Porzingis, Luke Kennard, and Zachary Ricochet. And I think I said that right.
You did it. You got it right.
Ricochet. Hey, yeah, let's go. The number 1 overall pick year before last, before Cooper Flagg. So that would be your 3 players to, make up the salary part of it. And then obviously I'd like a pick. You're not going to get that Pelicans pick. You're not. I mean, as much as I love it, you're not getting it. They're not going to trade that.
Davis isn't worth it. He's not worth that.
Well, and the Pelicans are just awful too. That pick could very well end up being the number 1 overall pick before it's said and done, or at least get you top 3 odds. So that's not going to happen, but you could still get a 1st round pick from them. So I don't know. There's conflicting reports though. There's some people think that they're ready to move on from Ricochet. Some people are saying that, well, they're not going to include him in a package for AD, which I don't know if I believe that. I kind of feel like they're a little desperate, to kind of because they're always in the play-in spot. They just traded Trae Young. Did you see that's another? We haven't been on here in a while, so we haven't talked about a lot of this stuff. But that Trae Young trade, and I'm not the biggest Trae Young fan. I mean, I get it; he's a defensive liability. His style of play doesn't really lead to winning. Uh, but he's a young player. He's a productive offensive player. That package that the Hawks got for Trae Young, no draft compensation, and you got CJ McCollum and what's his
Corey
name?
Kispert.
Yeah, Corey Kispert. Yeah, so that's what you got for Trae Young. That is crazy to me. Crazy.
Dude, honestly, so here's my opinion, and this opinion is derived from listening to a bunch of people talk about this. But they just wanted to get Trae Young out of Atlanta. I don't know
Had
if
to.
something went sour. I don't know what happened, but that package,
they basically salary dumped Trae Young.
yeah, that's insane. And I realize he isn't the greatest defender, but let's be real. We are playing in a league where defense, despite what Nico Harrison says, and Nico Harrison doesn't have a job right now, so I don't really take much into account of what he says about basketball. But we're in a league right now where defense is not the highest priority. Getting points on the board is the highest priority. And if there is one thing that guy can do, he can put points on the board. He can do that, and he's worth way more than what they traded him away for. And it all boils down to me is they just wanted him out of Atlanta. They wanted him out of the city. Period. End of discussion. And the fact that they weren't this is going to be a stray, but the fact that they weren't able to fleece Washington of all people, that's sad. Yeah. That's sad. Atlanta is going to be awful forever. Yeah. Mark my words. We will be dead before they win a finals.
And look, it may be the same case for wait, did you say Washington or Atlanta will be dead before they win a finals?
Atlanta.
Probably Washington. I was about to say, because it might be the same thing for Washington, but at least they'll be somewhat entertaining to watch. I think they'll be. But we'll see how it goes. My question though is, if Atlanta is willing to do that, if you're willing to trade the guy who is perceived, and I know Jalen Johnson has, taken that next step, and that's part of the reason why they traded Trae Young, but Trae Young was perceived as being your franchise player, and you traded him basically in a half salary dump type of deal, because Kispert has more years on. He's not expiring like CJ, but so if they're that desperate to do something like that, you got to think they're going to, with all the smoke around Anthony Davis, you have to think that they're actually still really considering doing something like that, because, obviously you couldn't, the Mavs didn't want Trae Young because you got Kyrie coming back, and, that wouldn't have worked. So they couldn't have traded Trae for Anthony Davis straight up, even with draft compensation, because the Mavs wouldn't have done it. So when they made that move, I was thinking, well, what's the next move after that? They probably tried to trade Trae for Anthony Davis. Mavs didn't want to do that. And then, so they finally found somebody to take Trae, and they were like, yeah, well, we'll take him, but this is all we're giving you. And they're like, okay, fine, we'll do it. Well, now what's next? I mean, I kind of, I'm putting my tinfoil hat on a little bit, but I kind of feel like that was a precursor for what we could see at this trade deadline. And I get it. AD's hurt, and we're getting, all these people saying, oh, well, nobody's going to give up anything of any substance for AD at this point. I don't know, man. I mean, we've seen, and I know it was a very isolated outlier type of situation, but DJ, we saw Luka get traded for Anthony Davis. we saw Luka get traded for Anthony Davis and Max Christie. So, and we've seen some head scratching. We saw Mikal Bridges get traded to the New York Knicks for 5 first-round picks
That's crazy.
a couple years ago.
That is
Like,
crazy.
there have been some things that have happened that you would have never thought would have happened. And it just depends on being there at the right time, talking to the right people who feel some sort of sense of desperation. So, and I don't agree with that, but if the Hawks feel inclined to do that because they've always been stuck in this play-in tournament range in the East, and they want to take a swing like that, then so be it. Toronto, the other team that has been mentioned in all this, they have a history of taking, a swing on a star with injury issues. That there was some uncertainty about his future and everything in Kawhi Leonard, and it worked out for them. Now, obviously, prime Kawhi is much different than prime Anthony Davis. Both great players when they're not hurt, but
This ain't prime Anthony Davis.
But prime Kawhi is capable of being the number one option on a championship team. He proved that. But again, though, we've seen it in the past. Toronto can take swings on stuff like that, and if again, reading the tea leaves and looking at some of the players being mentioned from Toronto's end, it'd probably be 2 of these 3 players: Emmanuel Quickley, R.J. Barrett, and Jakob Pertl.
Yeah.
And it'd have to be 2 of those 3 players. DJ, if it was Emmanuel Quickley and R.J. Barrett, I wouldn't be as bullish about the draft compensation. If it was Emmanuel Quickley, R.J. Barrett, and a first-round pick, preferably this year's pick that Toronto's going to have, I'd do it immediately.
No question.
If Jakob Pertl is in the deal, I'm going to be bullish. I don't care if Anthony Davis is hurt. 3 first-round picks. 3 first-round picks.
That contract is so bad.
It's awful.
It's so bad.
It's awful.
It's like it might be the worst contract in basketball right now.
He's got so before he signed the extension, he was making he's making $19 million a year this year and next year. Then for the next 3 years after that, he's going to be making around like $27-28 million a year. And he is a 30-year-old, not that athletic big with back issues. Like, no, we're not signing up for that. So, I mean, that's like, yeah.
Making millions in a wheelchair, dude. Like, this is not good.
No, like, I mean, if we gotta talk about that, fine. Let's talk about it. But we're starting with 3 unprotected first-round picks.
Yep.
Including the one in this year's draft. And I mean, obviously I have no say in the matter, but if I'm talking with Toronto about it, I'm not even budging. Like, that's the starting point. That's where we can start if you're going to put him in there. But again, if you keep Pertl, that's fine. We'll take Emmanuel Quickley, R.J. Barrett, and this year's first-round pick, and bam, you can have Anthony Davis.
Yeah. Absolutely. And the thing is, I think he makes more sense for the Raptors than he does for the Hawks, because here's the reality for the Hawks. You just traded away your ability to get into the play-in, I think. I don't think with that roster, the way it is right now, and even if you do add Anthony Davis, you're going to be trading away some assets who would also, get you into the play-in. It just doesn't make any sense for them. I don't think Atlanta happens. I really don't. It just doesn't make any sense if it's from a win-now perspective. If we're going from a win-now perspective, which I think if you're trading for, how old is Anthony Davis? 31. If you're trading for a 32, but if you trade for a 32-year-old Anthony Davis, I think your perspective has to be win now. It can't be for the future, because I don't think there is any future. The future is full of injuries, and we've seen that. Like, I know people can call me a hater. Call me a hater. I don't care. That's the reality of Anthony Davis. They call him Day to Davis for a reason.
Well, and again, it reminds me of, when the Mavs started Luka's rookie season, and we got to about this point in the season, and Luka had fully established himself. Because the Mavs had veterans on that team. They had Wesley Matthews, Harrison Barnes, DeAndre Jordan. But by the time we had gotten to this point in the season of that year, it was apparent like this is Luka's team. It doesn't matter how young he is. This is Luka's team. The 2 timeline thing isn't going to work. We need to make some trades and, try and start building around Luka and not worry about, these older guys. Because for like 3 years, Harrison Barnes was the guy. And
That's crazy, isn't it?
It's crazy looking back on that, but that was the reality of it. And then all of a sudden, here comes this 19-year-old from Slovenia, and it's over for you. So, so they wiped out everything and made the slate clean and tried to rebuild around Luka and started with KP, which was a great idea. I mean, looking back at what they did to get KP, I would have made that trade too. I mean, he had injury issues, but it was worth the risk because he was so young still. And it's crazy that Porzingis might still end up back in Dallas now. A little bit more refined now too, I believe, but still has the injury issues. But
and that problem, like whatever, some kind of crazy post-viral thing. I don't remember what exactly it's called.
Yeah,
but
he was struggling. Still struggling with a little bit, I think. But still, same thing with Coop now. By this point in the season, we all know it. This is Coop's team. Mm-hmm. This is Coop's franchise. You gotta try and wipe the slate clean. Keep Kyrie because I think there's a lot of value in keeping Kyrie. Kyrie is the type of guy when he comes back. I have no. Now Achilles, it might be a little bit different, but from ACL, I really do think Kyrie's going to come back and be a good version of himself. Both on and off the court. And he's going to continue to have positive value for Coop off the court, especially. So you keep him around. But, I mean, as far as everything else, I mean, maybe keep Max Christie. He seems like a guy that you could, keep around Coop, and he could be a piece to a playoff or a title contender one day. Like him. I think Lively could be that too, but obviously we have 2 consecutive years of injury issues, regarding his feet. So that's concerning.
I don't really blame that on him. I mean, you got to remember we did have the circus that was our athletic training staff for a while, and that can impact a team greatly. That can impact a player greatly. So let's give Lively a little bit more time before we pull the plug on that.
And then, you look at like I said, the two-way guys, and you see how like the effort and the youthfulness and all that came. And I get it. It's Utah. Utah is not good at all. But again, Keontae George had killed us 2 consecutive times before that. And, those guys coming in, Musa Cisse and Ryan Nembhard and, all those guys just playing as energetic and, having something to prove and everything. That's what the fans want. Like, that was fun. Like, you didn't think it was going to be fun looking at that lineup going into that game, but it ended up being a blast. And I think they just need to pull the plug, and there will be more of that going forward. But, again, we'll see what happens. But Anthony Davis continues to be in trade rumors, and those are the main 2, the Hawks and the Raptors. We'll see what happens. I personally think something will get done between Dallas and Atlanta before it's said and done. We'll see. That's just my gut feeling. So we'll see. A couple other things I want to talk about trade-wise before we hop off here, DJ. Jonathan Kuminga continues to be linked to the Mavs. Not only do the Mavs have interest in Kuminga, but one of the reports yesterday was that Kuminga has a lot of interest in playing for Dallas. So, there's some smoke around that. If we wanted to reunite Clay with his, former team, who is currently in the 8th seed, and Clay's been playing outstanding lately.
Yeah.
He's shooting over 50% from 3 over his last 5 games, I think. He is not done. There is still a lot of tread on the tire there when it comes to Clay. But you could trade just for salary wise, Clay and Jaden Hardy for Kuminga works. So
I think I'd do it, honestly. I think Kuminga has a lot of untapped potential that he hasn't been able to realize because of the situation that has been at Golden State. And that's not Golden State's fault. They drafted him in the midst of a dynasty. Let's be real. So, and as we have seen, the two timeline thing does not work. It didn't work for Kuminga. Granted, I'm not going to say that Kuminga is like, superstar potential, but I think he could be very good. If y'all hear my kid screaming in the background, I'm sorry.
I didn't even hear it. I'm sorry. No, you good. Well, look, one more thing. I mean, look, it's say because some of the backlash to the Clay going back to Golden State was like, well, do they really want Clay and Buddy Hield on the same team? Well, then you got to look at something that's a little bit more, it makes you think a little bit more than what that, because obviously that's a yes for us, may not be for Golden State with that first package I mentioned, but say you swap Clay for Buddy Hield and then you have to trade Daniel Gafford for Kuminga. Would you still do it?
With draft capital, but I'm stingy. But with draft capital, I think that Gafford's done enough to justify that. Because essentially, I mean, yeah, Hield's good, but the thing about Hield is he's very inconsistent, in my opinion. Kuminga is largely unproven. You're doing this purely based on potential, and whenever you do anything purely based on potential, there's always the I wouldn't say likelihood, but the possibility that it doesn't work. It doesn't happen. And so I think you demand draft capital with that just to give yourself a buffer, because you're basically bringing in a bunch of hypothetical what ifs.
Yeah.
Can Hield be consistent? Can Kuminga develop? I don't know. But I'll tell you what they're getting back is they're getting back a guy who is shooting 50% for three on the past 8 games, and you're getting an absolute dog down low. I think it's worth it.
I tell you what, this is going to be an unpopular opinion here, but I think you could definitely get Kuminga and some draft capital from Golden State if you traded Clay and PJ Washington for him, because PJ it's not, again, I'm not saying I'd do it, but I'm saying you could because I'm looking at the sheet and I'm thinking like, okay, well, is Kuminga going to be content with coming off the bench in Dallas, or is PJ going to have to come off the bench? Because when they're fully healthy, like say next year, if they did the trade, like say they traded Klay Thompson and Jaden Hardy for Jonathan Kuminga, next season you would have a starting lineup of Kyrie Irving, probably Max Christie, Cooper Flagg, and then you'd have to choose between Kuminga or PJ Washington, and then you'd have Derek Lively at the center. So, Kuminga, part of the reason he's demanding a trade in Golden State is because he hasn't gotten the playing time or the role that he wants there. So, I mean, what do you do in that situation?
So, again, I'm going to say something that hurts me, and I'm going to say something that's going to piss a lot of people off. But if you do trade PJ, you don't trade him to Golden State. And I will tell you why. I think that Golden State is a brilliant place to accumulate draft capital from because they're aging. They're getting older. And what happens whenever teams get older? They get worse, and their draft capital increases in value. The reason that I want draft capital from Golden State is because it's something we can kind of rely on. And it doesn't even have to be capital from this upcoming draft. It can be, 2 or 3 drafts down the line. Because in about 2 or 3 years, I think that I'm sure Curry will still be great, but I don't know about anybody else. I don't know what that whole situation is going to look like, and it could be very dismal over there. It could be very dark. And I think that, getting a draft pick from 2028, 2029, I think that could have insane value down the line. So
Yeah.
that's where I'm looking. And I think that's where we need to be looking with the current state of our roster.
And they've got those available 26,
you
27, 28, 29, and 31. Those are the first round picks that Golden State has. And they can only, they can't trade consecutive years. So I mean, you could get 27 and 29, or you could get 28 and 31.
Yeah.
So
I think I'd do that. I think I would do.
You could get 26 and 28, get a pick this year, but they're kind of middle of the pack this year. But I would do that. Yeah, 27 and 29. That'd be I'd be interested in that for sure.
Either 27, 29 or 28 and 31. I think that's prime time. I think that's what you want to look at. But to build off of that, that's the reason I don't want to trade him PJ, because PJ is still in his prime. PJ will be in his prime still at that point in time. And, just Steph by himself, I don't think gets him over the hump. But Steph and PJ is going to win them some games. We don't want that.
Yeah.
So if you do trade PJ, you trade him to a place where he isn't going to be able to negatively impact the draft capital that you're getting back for him. That's my personal opinion. I'm not a GM by any means, but that's what I look at.
Now, look, if we're thinking about adding another power forward or just small forward / power forward, and we're talking about the Kuminga stuff, and one last rumor I'm going to mention is the Indiana Pacers have been interested in Daniel Gafford. And I think the Warriors have been interested in him too, but the Pacers have too. And I've just been looking here, and Obi Toppin matches his salary exactly. Andrew Nembhard is not too far off, about $4 million off, but you could trade the Pacers, Daniel Gafford, and Rick Carlisle's pet center, Dwight Powell, and it'd be a perfect match. And you could
trash about our Lord and Savior.
Hey, I mean, look, Dwight Powell's awesome. Love the guy. I mean everything I say. I'm not being sarcastic at all.
Blasphemy.
But I'm just saying, like, if you did something like that, you could, unite the Nembhard brothers in Dallas. That'd be pretty cool.
I was about to say I would trade for Nembhard before I'd trade for Toppin. I think Toppin has a lot. How old is Toppin now? It's been a while.
He is 27.
Yeah, so the issue I have with Toppin, sometimes he looks amazing. A lot of times he looks really underwhelming. You ever heard the notion of look like Tarzan, play like Jane? That's a lot of what you get with Toppin. So I think, and that might piss some people off, I don't care. That's just, terminology that coaches use. But with Nembhard, you know what you're going to get. You're going to get production.
Yeah.
You aren't always going to get that with Toppin. There are a lot of the reason why Toppin has been so successful in Indiana is because of what surrounds him.
This just popped into my brain, but like I'm just looking at the cap sheets and what players are making and all this other stuff. A deal I would do with the Pacers if they really want Daniel Gafford, and if they'd be willing to take on Caleb Martin's contract, and tip your hat to Caleb Martin. He's been playing really well lately.
He played great last night.
Yeah, he was awesome last night, and he's really showing some life here. He looks like the Miami Caleb Martin.
Yeah. But Giannis stopper.
Yeah, that's right. So Daniel Gafford and Caleb Martin for Obi Toppin and Benedict Mathurin.
Ooh, I like Mathurin.
I would do that.
I think I would.
I would do that. You're adding some athleticism. You get that vertical spacing with Obi Toppin that you lost when you let Derrick Jones Jr. walk.
Very similar, yeah. Yeah.
And you're adding a good young 23-year-old Benedict Mathurin who showed us what he could do in last year's playoff run when the Pacers got to the finals. he was solid. So
my only thing about so Jones and Toppin are very similar in the fact that they are, top 1% athletes, right? What made Jones so good for us was Luka Doncic. Jones, I mean, he's been okay since then, but he has never been what he was with us with Luka. And that's because Luka,
you can say
elevated
that for a lot of
everybody.
guys too.
You could. It's the Luka effect, unfortunately.
Lively,
Yeah, Lively.
Gafford.
Jesus, yeah, Gafford. Anyone who can jump really high and can catch lobs, they were automatically elevated by Luka.
Now, to be fair, Kyrie has been out for a very long time too. So having him would help, especially the big men. It would help the big men a lot. But
It would, but Kyrie was not the one that facilitated a lot of those. It was mostly Luka. And what do we not have anymore?
yeah. Well, I don't know, man. The way things are trending for Luka and the Lakers, I haven't said it much public. I have said it a few times, but there's a lot of backlash every time I say it.
Now
But
we need to put on the hats.
I'm saying, man, people don't want to think about it or even consider it as a possibility. We could have a Luka homecoming in the next couple years. I mean, I could see it happening. He never wanted to be there. He said all the right things, and him and LeBron have said all the right things, and they act like it's fine and all that. It's not working.
No,
It's not working. I mean, they're just not a championship contender. And I see the reactions from like Lakers fans, and we knew it was going to happen as soon as Luka had a bad game, or if he yelled at the officials too much or didn't run back on defense. We knew they were going to turn on him, and now they've turned on him. And I have seen just some crazy stuff online. I'm thinking if you're Luka, and I mean I'm not saying Luka stays online and looks at stuff, but you got to know his family probably sees it, his agent probably sees. I mean, I'm not saying he'd leave because of the fans, but he never wanted to be there in the first place. So Nico Harrison is gone now, and in a year or two, or whenever whenever that is, that he could potentially come back. He could come back to the most complete roster he's ever played with, and that's including that roster that he took to the NBA Finals too, because he never had a guy like Cooper Flagg around him.
No,
I can tell you that. So,
well,
we'll see.
All right. So if we want to do this, all right, let's do this. So the win horse points. Here we go. If we're going to get Cooper Flagg back, not Cooper Flagg. If we're going to have to edit that crap out. If we're going to get Luka back, it's going to take us bringing in some people to attract him back here. I don't think he just comes back to come back, even for Cooper Flagg. Okay. I think that we're going to have to find some way to bring in Nikola Jokic if we want to bring back Cooper Flagg or doing that.
That's going to be tough.
It will be tough. And the only way that happens, and this is going to make a lot of people unhappy, the only way that happens is if we retain a lot of what we've got and let it all expire to where we have a bunch of cap space. That's the only way that works. And you know what?
Including Anthony Davis.
Definitely including Anthony Davis. But you know what? It may actually be worth it because by the time that happens, Cooper Flagg, and I did actually mean to say his name this time, Cooper Flagg will actually be in his prime by that point, or will be just entering his prime. He will be the most exciting young player in the league next to Wembanyama, and it'll be a very attractive place to plug in Jokic and Luka Doncic. But we're going to have to go through hell to get there.
Well, I just have, and I mean, I'm not saying that this new regime couldn't do something like that, but man, the way free agency has gone in the NBA over the last several years, it just seems like your chances of pulling off a massive swing like that in free agency is just not as feasible as it used to be. And even back then, even like back in yeah, right. Like it really was a shot in the dark back then too. But now, especially with how this, you have the aprons, the tax aprons that teams are becoming more and more worried about. A lot of teams are, which I mean, that could be That could be something to look at going forward too, because teams are second guessing giving these star. Up till now, if you're a star on a team, it's just like, okay, full max. We're not even going to negotiate about it. Here, you can have it. Well, now it's getting to a point where these owners just like,
Yep.
like, money's kind of tight. I don't know. I don't know if I want to do that or not. So you could have some squeeze opportunities there, but I think it would have to be through trade. And look, I'm not saying it wouldn't be capable of happening, but I would rather just build organically. I would rather go ahead and do your clean your slate now, get your draft capital, get a couple of younger guys in there, whether it's Kuminga or Benedict Matherin, Obi Toppin. Obi Toppin's not that young, but I'm just saying, like, get some younger guys in there, get your draft capital, and do your scouting the right way. Build around Flagg. Have those guys, have your younger guys growing with Flagg on these rookie contracts, so they're not going to be that expensive. And then by the time you get to that point where you can have this LeBron type homecoming with Luka and Dallas, then it makes it a little bit easier to do it. Your books are cleared. You've got fairly cheap payroll because you've got a lot of younger dudes and you've been drafting a lot. And it could be a situation that you could build like OKC did, and then you just plug in Luka as the final piece there. But that's a lot of tinfoil hat theory. That's a lot of people are just like, oh, it's forget about Luka. We don't want to talk. Shut up. I don't care. I'm gonna talk about it because I think it could actually happen. And I have gotten past the Luka trade. I'm not dwelling on that, and I'm super happy about Cooper Flagg. I'm just saying, if you add Luka and Cooper Flagg together, he is the perfect superstar to pair with him. So, I mean, him and Kyrie were great, but then you had a bunch of role players that did, one or two things right, and it wasn't like a completeness to it. Cooper Flagg is the perfect type of player to pair with Luka. And that's all I'm going to say about that.
All I'm saying is I don't know that Cooper Flagg. I keep saying this.
That's okay.
I don't think I'm not sure that Luka will be looking so much for roster perfection and ring chasing as much as he would be wanting to play with people that he has relationships with. And Nikola Jokic, I mean, that's his boy. And I think that somewhere, somehow, those two are going to end up together. And I would love to see it in Dallas, but it's going to happen somewhere.
Probably in LA, knowing our luck.
I was going to say, I pray to God it's not LA because I would say. I will say this for LA. I think that situation improves as soon as LeBron James retires. I think it improves overnight, if you want my honest opinion. No shade to LeBron, but we actually already saw this year. LeBron was out for an extended period of time, and they were rocking. They were firing on all cylinders. Then he comes back, and everything plummets. JJ Redick's pissed. Luka's pissed. They have no chemistry anymore. It seemed like the chemistry just evaporated just overnight.
He's wearing his self as a patch on his jersey, celebrating the 23 seasons.
Freaking Adam Silver's nose is so brown right now, it's not even funny. That is ridiculous.
Another money grab for Topps too. Shout out to Topps. They got some nice cards, but that's definitely a money grab. So
okay, let's talk about Topps for a second. Why don't Topps allow just your regular average Joes to get big old breaker box blasts instead of having these freaking streamers do it all, where you just randomly place where they purposely place cards in the stuff they give them. Say, oh my God, LeBron 1 of 1. BS. That's crap. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, look, don't get me wrong. You and I have both gotten some pretty cool Cooper Flagg cards out of these boxes and these individual packs and stuff. But I do think it's hilarious where it's just like, oh, the most what's the word? The most valuable Cooper Flagg card that has been discovered so far or unpacked so far, and it just so happens to be these dudes with a camera on, with this these professional these people who open card packs for a living. And given they've probably ordered a ton of cards to open,
I don't
but
care.
still, it's always that, and I'm just like, this
It's
kind of
obnoxious.
feels rigged.
It's obnoxious. It's insufferable, and it's gross. Stop it.
Yeah.
They need to stop.
Let us real, let the little people, let the little humble, your average day card collectors have a shot at something, big like that. So
Yeah, give me something like that. I'm going to sell it online, and I'm going to have my daughter's, college fund paid off and pay off my wife's student debt. That's what I'm going to do with it. You know what those card sharks are going to do with it? They're going to actually, I don't know what they're going to do with it, but I guarantee you mine is more noble.
Well, I'll tell you what, if anybody listening to this collects basketball cards, like seriously collects basketball cards, and if y'all are interested in some Luka cards, which I mean, if my pipe dream scenario comes true in the next several years, I might wish I hadn't offered this, but I've got 2 Luka cards that I would, sell for the correct price. You've seen them, DJ. It's that one where he's playing for Real Madrid, the 2016-17 upper deck.
PSA 10, boys.
Yeah, PSA 10, Gem Mint 10, and it's the rainbow refractor or whatever. That thing is a gem, and I would be willing to sell it for the right price. So keep
that
in
right
mind.
Price is about $25,000. So you better pay up. Because Dalton wants a new car, baby.
I do have another Luka. It's a rookie card. It's Mavs rookie card, and it's got like the jersey piece. It's called the Crown Royal. So Crown Royal 2018-19 Luka card, and it's got the jersey piece, and then it's autographed by him underneath the jersey piece, and that's a really cool one too. That one's just a PSA 8, but still, I mean, it's an autograph. It's an autographed jersey piece. What you gonna do?
He's letting that go for a measly
that's
10
right.
grand.
Yeah, just a measly. Yeah, half off more than half off what the other one is. Oh, in all seriousness, I talk that a lot, but I'll probably end up hoarding it in my closet for another decade.
And I have this Jace Richardson signed base card, and it could be yours.
Yeah, he just unwrapped that before we jumped on here. I was getting everything set up, and he was opening his pack there. That's pretty cool. Hold on to it and see what happens.
Or pay me $20 and I'll give it to you.
There you go. Well, guys, look, we appreciate y'all coming in and listening to us ramble a little bit. We stayed on a little bit longer than we normally do because it's been a while and we have a lot to talk about. And it's, a lot been going on, but had a fun time getting back into it. And we'll see how this trade deadline go. If more rumors pop up, we'll hop back on here and discuss them. But we're gonna try and get back to our once a week thing for now. But guys, we appreciate it. Be sure to go like, rate, and subscribe on all your favorite podcast platforms. Please leave us a rating and a review on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Really helps us out. And we greatly appreciate it. So y'all have a great rest of your Friday. Have a great rest of your weekend, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks, guys.